I just want to start with your view of what the implications are for Prime Minister Modi. This is a very rare setback for him.
Yes, I think it's been a really important and I would say a watershed moment over this last week. It has demonstrated both the extent of deep discontentment. The protest was triggered by the examination paper leaks, and the resignation of the education minister became the core mobilizational issue. But really, the protest expanded much beyond that to express a discontentment with the nature of the Indian economic growth story that has never actually structurally failed to create and generate jobs for the aspiring young, a failure of an education system that hasn't been invested in a manner that makes the young capacitated and capable in a modern economy. But most importantly, also a frustration with a government whose governance style has been broadly extremely authoritarian and not very sensitive to people's issues. And it is that frustration that came out. The demand for the resignation of the minister was very much at the heart of a fundamental core truth about democracy, that actors, elected actors, have to be responsive to and accountable to the citizenry. And in shaping this demand, the protesters were really articulating a demand for core democracy to get back to doing the job that democracy has to do, which is to ensure that government is accountable to citizens. So I think it's a very important sign of the extent of discontentment, both with the economy and with the structure of governance.
Well, the protesters got what they wanted, which was the removal of the education minister or the resignation of that minister. But is a new education minister really going to solve these problems? And, Narendra Modi, we heard they're announcing a new task force, which is going to be headed up by the former Infosys CEO to reform the system. Are these the answers that are going to satisfy the protesters?
Well, the core demand of the resignation of the education minister was certainly fulfilled. But as I said, the protest was an expression of a much deeper discontentment that no single committee can fix. This is fundamentally about re-looking at the structure of India's economic growth and the nature of public investment in India's education system, the structure of India's education system itself, which is extremely rote-oriented, which does not actually create a broad-based quality of education, and the pyramid on the top is so narrow that the scale of competition is so high for a very limited supply of high quality higher education institutions. So we need a complete structural reset. Committee after committee have been set up. The paper leaks that caused the trigger for this protest is not new. It has been happening in India for some time now, and we've had sporadic protests in many parts of the country over the last few years. Committees were set up. In 2024, a Radhakrishnan committee was set up to look into this matter. It went to the courts as well, and no action was taken. So really, it is important that a committee was set up in that it shows some reaction and response to the deep discontentment and distress that was articulated through this process, and that the government has recognized it and is responding. But the answer is not going to lie in a committee. The answer is going to lie in a much broader attempt to reset the structure and nature of the Indian economic growth story, alongside with a serious investment in the quality of schooling in this country.
There's a very interesting election coming up as well in Uttar Pradesh, the most populous state in India, 240 million people. To what degree is unemployment, issues facing the youth, going to be a key theme now? And how do you see this playing out with possibly a newly emboldened opposition?
Well, unemployment has been a core electoral issue for some time now. If you look at the 2024 general election, where in the key state of Uttar Pradesh that you just mentioned, which also is the home of the ideological experimentation that shapes the Hindutva majoritarian ideology that shapes the ideological contours of this government, they lost quite remarkably in a significant number of seats in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And the overarching issue there was unemployment. The young in the state repeatedly said, it shows up in surveys, it showed up in my own work in the state, we are tired and exhausted by a politics that consistently seeks to polarize us when what we really want is jobs and a better life. And really, this is what has been articulated in these protests as well. However, I think it's important for us to be a little bit more reflective about what is happening in India today. After the 2024 general election, the Modi government, the BJP, has in fact won almost every single state election where it has been in contention over these last 2 years. In fact, even days before the Cockroach Janata Party was formed, and this kind of unleashing of discontentment that contributed to the Instagram followers and eventually young people coming out on the streets, the BJP won a very, very crucial election in the eastern state of West Bengal. And so the question that we really have to ask is, to what extent is the electoral structure in India today a site for expressing and articulating accountability for government, and to what extent does that demand for accountability come outside of the formal party process on the streets? So, we have to think harder about this. It's not clear how many of these issues are shaping the electoral dynamics. But if I were the BJP today, given the kind of discontentment that came out on the streets and the unleashing of fear that had silenced people, the irreverence with which young people came out and asked questions of the government, the language that they used, the tools that they used, how this spread, I would be very, very worried. This is one of the poorest states where the challenge of education and the challenge of unemployment is significant. It was already present in the 2024 general election. It is likely that it will shape the contours of the discourse in the 2027 state elections. As for the opposition, this is the opportunity. It has not been a level playing field. The opposition has made its mistakes, but the BJP's governance style and its authoritarian tentacles run deep. And over the last few years in particular, we have seen a lot of attempt at both reshaping the electoral process through efforts that are reworking the electoral rolls, but also breaking up opposition parties when they are weak and bringing opposition party members of parliament onto the side of the BJP in different ways and forms, which had kind of weakened the opposition, and it was really struggling. The fact that people came out on the streets and the governance of the BJP's government was being challenged on the streets gives the opposition an opportunity to leverage this broad societal discontent and afford a stronger challenge to the BJP going forward.
Yeah, and what about the Cockroach Janata Party? Because it started as a joke. It's certainly not a joke anymore. To what degree has it been emboldened? How do you see it evolving as a political force over the coming weeks and months?
The Cockroach Janata Party gained its popularity and relevance in the Indian public sphere on the back of a deep discontentment and a deep economic discontentment and a deep silence in India's democracy, a silence that came out of fear owing to an increased use of authoritarian tendencies that had made it much harder within the public sphere to challenge the government. Satire that came off-the-cuff remark made by the Chief Justice of India back in May, where he referred to unemployed youth. He later corrected himself to say he was only talking about unemployed lawyers as cockroaches, suddenly gave a vocabulary for India's young to express their discontentment both with their everyday realities and the realities of their polity. And it just unleashed itself and became so much larger. Everything that the government tried to do, particularly the symbol of this movement became an activist, Sonam Wangchuk, who went on a hunger strike for eventually 25 days. But around the 19th, 20th day of his hunger strike in New Delhi, the government did what it is used to doing, which is to use its coercive sources of power to try and shut down the protest by picking him up from the protest site and more or less arresting him and keeping him in hospital. The assumption was that this would calm things down and send a message to people coming to the protest site that the state has its guns out, its bait turns out, be careful. Yet people just drew on the language of satire. Their frustrations came out, and they came in large numbers. And those large numbers are symbolic of the fact that this issue was much beyond a singular exam leak and a singular demand for the resignation of one person. It was about a democratic accountability and through an expression of discontentment. So the Cockroach Janata Party were the catalyst of something that has become much larger. The Cockroach Janata Party now, I think, has an opportunity to become an important pressure point that draws on these issues and mobilizes the youth to place these pressure points into the public sphere and ensure that the feedback loops reach our former political space, both the government that's in power as well as the opposition. It is also very important that the Cockroach Janata Party keep a very careful vigilance on many of its demands. The resignation was one aspect, but other important demands were made, particularly in terms of protecting those who came to the protests, who fought for their rights against further police action. We know from the history of these last few years that the government can be quite coercive, and it is important that they stay vigilant to ensure that democratic rights of those who participated in the protests are protected. So they have a long task ahead of them.